with intriguing and educational webinars. Each subscription includes tech support, RSS feeds, a chat room, and social media channel. Be sure to check out their yearly specials for basic and premium memberships. So sign up today at aftermath.media. That's aftermath.media.
Gentlemen, I brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood show.
The Vinny Eastwood show.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need. The Vinny Eastwood show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show. Today, we are going to be talking about what the society is doing to men, what this feminist society is doing to men. There's a number of different aspects to this, with partnership and the challenges therein, and finances and deception as it would come to play in the higher brows of our society. Now, when we're talking about how men are being treated in the society, it's important to recognise what men bring to the table and what women bring to the table, biologically, sociologically, physically, that kind of thing. For example, if you are a security guard and you're a 5-foot girl and you don't have the muscle mass to, say, drag somebody out of the club who's, say, a 6-foot man and weighs 100 kilos or something, you're just not qualified for the job, physically speaking. You might have MMA training or whatever, but just generally, it's just, you get big guys to do that job, generally speaking, because they can do it. And the whole element that is at play in our society is trying to get men to face off against women, women to face off against men. My mother told me that what's happened with the recent rise of feminism is that it's inevitably going to trigger a rise in chauvinism to counteract it, right? This is how the world, this is how laws work, everything exists in polarity, and when one goes too far to one side, another will rise to meet it. So the Vinny Eastwood Show, just before I continue, is donated to you by you. So please go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like go ahead, make my news, and go ahead, make a donation. We are trying to get our Patreon base up. We are celebrating our second Patreon, Alan Mosdale, who's been supporting the show for a long time, aliside our other Patreon, Hyro. Thank you so much, guys, for signing up to support us every month, just to get your little mention. Mosdale does a show as well, so hopefully he'll be in the chat room for those of you. He is in the chat room, in fact. Amos777 on YouTube, if you want to go and check out his show. He's one of the number of people that I've inspired to just like, man, Vinny's show is actually pretty crap, I can do a better one, and he and he does his best, and that's all that anybody can ever ask for. So good on you, Amos, thank you so much. Now, we have another few moments of business to get through. First of all, we're going to plug our wonderful sponsors, holdenhealthcare.com. Emphasis on the care, as a naturopath that works here in New Zealand. And so if you are going through that medical ringer, if you have cancer or something of that nature, you need to understand that the medical system basically tries to drug you into death to a large degree, and whereas naturopathic care is more about realizing that the body does have the ability to heal itself, but it needs the right nutrients and things of that nature, the right practices, in order to allow that healing to happen. He's a specialist in hard to treat cases as well. So if you know somebody who is one of those hard to treat cases, get them to go to holdenhealthcare.com and at least get yourself a consultation. It's something that my family and myself and my ex-wife and everybody have basically been using to good effect, provided we actually follow what he tells us to do. And he said that that's the real challenge, Vinny, is that people have a choice. You can either get well and change what you're doing in your life that made you unwell in the first place, or you can choose to keep doing those things that are going to kill you, right? It's a slow suicide that many people have gotten themselves into, and we don't want to be a part of that anymore. My other sponsor, reopen.nz, if you guys have got a freedom business, all right, you believe that mandates were wrong and that everybody should have a choice, and that everybody should just be all-inclusive, and it's just like, hey man, as long as you're not hurting anybody or damaging somebody's property, yeah. If you've got a business of that nature, go to reopen.nz and add your freedom business today, ladies and gentlemen. Good old-fashioned way of having a big database of people all around the country from all sorts of fields of services and things of that nature, who all disagree with the way things went and the way things could go again. Which reminds me to let people know, just recently the New Zealand government has passed a law, allegedly, that allows the forced mandates, and police can back up health professionals. Like, so a health person with a killer jab could come to your house and forcibly inoculate you and have the police hold you down while they do it, theoretically. Doesn't sound like a country I want to live in anymore, frankly. You know? I'm not sure I'm the only one. I mean, how many people have left this country? There's a thing called the brain drain, where intelligent people flee New Zealand because you don't have to be that intelligent to figure out that this is not a great place to be if you're intelligent. You know? Dude. If let me explain to you something about New Zealand. All right, for those of you who have watched too much Lord of the Rings and think we've got, wonderful culture with people in grass skirts greeting you when you come off no. Everything that you're dealing with in your respective countries, we're dealing with here. If you're an English-speaking Western nation, have you got copious quantities of immigration coming in? Yeah? Have you got a massively low birth rate from your native population so that you're basically getting infiltrated and overtaken by people who weren't born there and don't share your culture and your values because they didn't grow up in it? Yeah? Have you got, like, poisons and toxins and chemicals and things of that nature that are laced through your entire water supply, your entire food supply? Yeah? Have you got a brainwashed masses that have a lackadaisical media who think that somebody getting knocked off their bike by a car is newsworthy? As in, like, this is the most important thing that happened today in the country, and everybody needs to know about it. You know, this is consequential. This is important. No, it's not. All of the things that people are talking about, they're just so dull. You get that? And a population that doesn't care about anything. It's basically like a viral outbreak of abuse, neglect, and narcissism, where instead of wanting to do something with your life that is important, the thing you actually really want to do is work really hard in a job that doesn't inspire you creatively whatsoever, so that you can earn enough money so that you can purchase some description of alcoholic beverage in vast quantities on the weekends to help you forget about the trap that you're in. Have you got elected officials who basically don't care about the legislative process, don't hold back anything from going for, who are bought and paid for, who belong to internationalist groups and clubs, who go overseas for this internationalist training and then come back and start destroying your country with it? Yeah, New Zealand's not that different at all. At all. This is the reason why it doesn't matter whether you're hearing news from any country. If it's happening anywhere, it's happening everywhere, sort of thing. In terms of the New World Order, in terms of Agenda 21, and these new sustainability goals that they've got going on. What do you want to do? Oh, we want to control absolutely everything that everybody does for all time. Everything that everybody does? Yeah. What about breathing? Yeah, we want to control that too. That's CO2, mate. It's bad for the environment. Yeah, but don't plants need it to grow? Well, yeah. And don't we need the plants to grow in order to survive? Yeah. So you're basically trying to institute a policy where it's going to be harder, if not impossible, for human beings to survive? Yeah. And that's sustainable? Yeah. So you're basically anti-human, anti-life, and anti-freedom, and anti all the aspects of humanity that have actually had any value throughout the course of human history. Yeah. Right. I'll tell you what, you can go and do that over there, but I'm not going to let it happen here. I'm not just going to sit back and let it happen. I'm going to do something about it, because I know that you won't stop doing what you're doing, because you're insane. You've been brainwashed, you've been mind-controlled, you've been bribed, you've done goodness knows what, how many initiations, and how many times you've signed on the dotted line for various cults that you've been through in your entire career, from the banks and the politics and whatever. You don't belong to you. Okay? And I don't belong to you either. You're beholden to somebody else. I'm not. And I'm not going to let it happen. Why not? Why wouldn't you just let it happen? Why wouldn't you just let drag queens talk to your children and things of that nature? Well, because, principally, when you look at history and societies that have collapsed, the things that we are doing now are the exact same things that they did then. Maybe we've got different technologies and so on and so forth, but ideologically, sociologically, physically, psychologically, right? The exact same killers of societies are currently at play. And that's being done deliberately, I think. Maybe there's a potential that there's been a ruling class throughout all mankind's history. Like every time that the society gets to a certain point, they inject it with scumbaggery and destroy it. Because if it got too enlightened, if it got too smart, if it got too freedomy, people would figure out that they'd been controlled the whole time and mobilize to defeat them. And they don't want that to happen. So the best thing to do is to dumb everybody down. to make everybody fight about everything. Fight about your race, fight about your religion, fight about your sex, your sexuality, fight about your education, your social status, fight about what political party you vote for. And so you're all so busy fighting that you don't realise that the things that you're fighting against you actually have in common. Right? And that's what happens in New Zealand. If anybody gets up there and is making a go of it, actually being genuinely intelligent and successful, that's when the knives come out. We call it tall poppy syndrome. I'm sure you have a variant in your nation. But in the New Zealand truth movement, in the New Zealand truth media, oh my God, it's like a bunch of children, right? And the followers too. It's immature, I think. You can point at figures in the United States truth movement who have credibility, who have a certain respect for the position that they've been given to allow the dispensation of truth to the general public. Very few. And this is over the many years and the many people who've sacrificed their lives to creating that movement in the United States, which is probably the biggest in the world. And a lot of people don't have respect for that. They don't have respect for the people who've come before them. They don't have respect for the people who started out doing a radio show on CB radio and wind up getting assassinated by the FBI because of how much truth that they were getting out. I'm talking about Bill Cooper. So, because that mankind has its own history, right? Truth movements also have their own history. And when it comes to historical figures in this movement here in New Zealand, it kind of started with me to a large degree, talking about doing the web, the radio, and the video all simultaneously. I was the first to do that. Before me, there was my mentors, Jonathan Eisen, who does print, Uncensored Magazine, New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine, and Vapi Kupinga, who ran a show on Radio Wātea, my other mentor. And they got me into this whole movement because I didn't know who to go to, right? I didn't know who was already established, who was already doing something, because I didn't want to start something from scratch and not have anybody to look up to. And there's always people to look up to now. That's what's great about it. So many people are being disempowered, though, because they feel that enough is being done. Okay? Back when I started, there was me. All right, I was doing the alternative media for New Zealand. Now there's a number of outlets, and they all do a good job in their own respect. And I think that there should be 100 others that are opening up as soon as humanly freaking possible, while it's still actually humanly possible to do so. And a lot of people would be like, oh, but Vinny, I don't know enough. I don't have the ability to just tell people the truth and things like that. I don't know how to learn how to do these things on a computer, blah, blah, blah. Just give yourself a bit of credit, okay? And don't talk yourself out of it. If you want to do it, if you think that it would make you happy, try it and see. You got nothing to lose. If you're working a job and you're like, oh, I can't do this, don't have to do a hell of a lot, man. Look at, what was his name? Cross the Rubicon channel. He just goes out on his walks, when he walks his dogs, and does like maybe 3 or 5 minutes or something like that of him talking about a recent article that he saw on the web or something like that. That is no effort whatsoever. And his channel is great. And he's got huge amounts of videos. And he's talking about all the current issues. Okay, he's just doing his thing. And that's what all of you who have the ability to wield a phone need to be doing. That's all you need. Have you got a phone? Yeah, then start a show. All right, just start one. It doesn't matter how good it is, how bad it is. It doesn't matter what you're talking about or whatever. Just start doing something just for the hell of it. You've got nothing to lose here except the freedom of mankind by doing nothing. All right? I don't want to hear anybody's freaking excuses anymore. I don't want to hear anybody's freaking complaining about how hard you got it, how difficult it is, how your motivation is slipping or whatever. Everybody in this game deals with that from time to time. Okay? And the difference is we deal with it. It's the operative word. We don't allow ourselves to get into that headspace where we think that we're not good enough. We are. How do we know? Because we've done it for so long. That if we weren't good enough, we wouldn't have been given the support by the listening audience. We wouldn't have gotten the numbers up. We just keep doing it. Consistency is key. Just like a good cheese sauce. Now, onto the issue at hand. Just had to get all those things out there and been rattling around in my head lately. A lot of infighting happening recently in New Zealand between Counterspin and Liz Gunn from Free NZ Media, and it's sad to see. I don't even want to comment on it, quite frankly, because there's a reality here that when I got into this, I thought everybody was my friend because they're on the same side, right? No. Not at all. That's why I don't really work for anybody. I work with people. I collaborate and stuff like that. You just let me do my thing, you do yours. If we work together on occasion and get something accomplished together, if we're not just sitting around and having a discussion about what to do, we're actually doing something, we're actually working, yeah, I'll work with you, but I will never work for you. And I don't want anybody to work for me either. That's the thing. You don't want to control people. And that's what's very difficult for a movement about freedom that doesn't want to control other people, is because there is a natural urge for people in positions of leadership to start doing that. Why? Because they can. They get tempted. They start to use their audience to do things for them. Go after this person. Say lots of mean things about them. Support us. We'll delete their comments that are applying to you. We'll approve your comments that are being vicious towards them and in completely unfounded and ruthless manners. Yeah, we'll do that. Right? It's a lack of responsibility. Okay? If you're looking at the whole element of being responsible with the media that you are creating, are you doing more harm than good is the question. Okay, a lot of people out there causing a lot of harm in people's lives, including people in the truth movement, and I don't know precisely what causes it. I assume it's a lack of varied experiences. Okay, if you listen to this show, you're like in the top tier, all right, of people who have a wide awareness. Principally because we don't focus on anything on this show. We focus on everything. You want to talk about Trump for 2 hours? We'll do a 2-hour Trump talk. You want to talk about Agenda 21 for 2 hours? We'll do Agenda 21 talk. You want to talk about aliens? You want to talk about weather control, weaponry? You want to talk about chemtrails or 5G or anything? Anything! We've talked about it on this show. And so that qualifies you as a listener to this show as somebody who's rather exceptional in the broad scheme of things, because most people don't do that. Most people have a rabbit hole, tunnel vision that they want to research this one thing that they never teach anybody anything about. Okay? They get themselves into a feedback loop and they isolate themselves, and it's not good. All right, or at least it's not good for me. It might be good for you. Maybe you actually are working on something, and maybe I'm just jumping the gun here. But I think that just a lack of focus can be just as bad as way too much focus, to the point where you get no returns on your intellectual investment. I'd like to thank Mr. Bushman in the chat room here for giving us a $10 super chat. Cheers, bro. He says, go get a coffee after the show, bruv. And it's just like, you know what, bro? I absolutely will. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, man. I'm going to get these super chats up. We're going to get the Patreon up and all of those sorts of things, and get us back to where we were, or at least try to get back to where we were, because honestly, I had 65,000 subscribers, 6,000 videos, 3 different YouTube channels across the fields. I had massive reach. I was earning maybe $3,000 a month off of super chats, and maybe $1,500 a month off of Patreon. All right, that's where I was. And then with the deplatforming, oh my goodness, did they take a big bite out of all that? Just gone, and then got arrested and banned from accessing the internet for 6 frickin' weeks right after my arrest. So there's no way that I can capitalize on the fact that I was arrested, to the point where as soon as I'm able to come back out, all these other alternative media had taken my spot, really, and I'd lost all my audience, and they haven't come back. It's just like, whoa, they can really do that to you, to me, to anybody. The second you become a threat, man, the second you really tell them the truth that they don't want people to hear, boom, right in the back of the head. I see that, man. And so if people are like, trepidatious about starting their truth career, I understand. I could have quit. I could have done something else. But I think the fact of the matter is, I can't quit. The truth is far too important to me. Not being a slave is kind of like the bee's knees as far as I'm concerned. Not having to do what somebody tells you, that's more important than anything else. Really? Don't you like that idea of having your autonomy? Where your life is yours? Your responsibility, everything bad that happens to you is your choice, everything good that you do is your choice. I like that. That's freedom. The animating contest of freedom, in the words of Samuel Adams. These people want to take it from us. They want to take it from you. They want to take it from all of us. And so I wonder what excuse and what complaint can be justified in the light of that. Okay? People have lost everything. I lost everything. And then they're still going. What's anybody else's excuse, really, for not starting at least? It's important, I think. Now, speaking of which, people getting in disagreements. So I think DK Spiracy's in the chat here. He's talking about Tommy Robinson, who's fully pro-Israel. All right, so there's a line that you got to draw down here, right? So on the lies are on one side, the truth are on the other. And so what happens is, because there's so many different things, like like vertebrae in a spine, really, all these different topics that are all stacked up on top of each other. So, do you know 9/11's an inside job? Yes, okay, that you advance to the next level. Do you know the world is a holographic fractal being projected by collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively? Okay, you go to the next level. Do you realize that fluoride is bad for you? Yeah, we go to the next level. Do you realize that forcible inoculations and things of that nature have never cured a single thing or helped anybody in any way ever? Okay, good. You go to the next level. Do you realize government is slavery? Okay, you go to the next level. So on and so forth. There's all of these things that are very, very obvious in terms of the truth, right? what is the truth? It's correct. It's right. And doing the right thing, doing the thing that's invested in with truth, is rarely an easy thing to do. Okay? But it's not that complicated. It's simple. It's just hard. I can't believe how many things I would like to just wish they weren't true. Okay? When you get brought up in this society and you think about men and women in particular ways, and then you realise that that's absolutely not true, you kind of get a little bit pissed off about it. You know? Man, I wish that was true. Yeah, but it's not, is it? No. It's not. That's unfortunate. And that's the situation that a lot of us are in, is just dealing with the fact. Right? Just dealing with the truth. And not being able to argue with it. That's a pain in the ass, because you used to be able to excuse things, you used to be able to make allowances and so on and so forth, but the more you know about truth and how important it is, the less you're inclined to let things slide. And people don't like that. Speaking of which, onto the alleged topic at hand, because Desk Mouse was talking about, he says women are insane and some of them are pretty. Again, the rise of chauvinism that comes up in here. So what happened to women? Okay, now, first of all, women weren't always treated that great in some ways. Okay, and that's part of the historical record. Once upon a time, women couldn't vote. But then they gave women the vote in New Zealand first. Women's suffrage, right? Why did they do that in New Zealand first? Well, because New Zealand was controlled by Britain. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, what it means is they wanted to experiment and see whether or not giving the women the vote would actually change anything. Because the unwritten rule of democracy is you can do anything you want so long as it changes nothing. How did the women vote? They voted exactly the same way their husband did. So it changed nothing. Okay, good. We'll give women the vote then. All right? We're all going to be equal and stuff like that. No, that's not quite how it works, actually. People aren't equal. Nobody's frickin' equal. I can guarantee you I'm probably not equal to you. We're different. Okay? All of us are very, very different. We have different pasts, different sizes, different shades of pigmentation, of melatonin in the skin. You know, all of these things are very, very different. And we all have our skills and talents and things of that nature. That's how we contribute to making a society in general. It's not all just one man is an island, I'm the best, and so you're all going to follow what I do. No. So when it comes down to how women were brainwashed by the Central Intelligence Agency, who funded Miss magazines from the premier feminist magazine outcroppings from the 1970s, I believe. They have worked for the Rockefeller Foundation, ostensibly, maybe not, if not cases literally, to get women into the workforce. Why? Well, two reasons. Number one, at the time, half the workforce was untaxable. Okay? Women would be staying home, taking care of the kids and doing all sorts of things, you know, time for cooking and washing and, you know, running a household, really. It's a big job. It's a job that you don't really get to take sick days from, right? It's a very, very tough lot. While the men had to go out in dangerous situations, work long hours, have a complete and utter exhaustion in order to make that job of the women a little bit easier, so that that woman didn't have to worry about the roof over her head, didn't have to worry about whether or not she had enough food for her kids, and so on and so forth. Man go out and win the bread, woman stay home and take care of the household, so that when the man comes home, there's food ready when he's really exhausted, so he's actually able to rest that night. And so he can go out and bust his ass again. So that's the thing about how men and women are actually really supposed to operate biologically and what have you, because it's impossible to hold too many masters, right? Either you have a boss and you work, or you're a mother. Okay, people will say, oh, I'm super mom, I can do all the work and do all my kids. Yes, but you wouldn't be able to parent your kids appropriately because you'd be too tired and you don't have the access to them that you would if a man was just going out and earning all the money and you were actually sitting at home and being able to teach your children on a daily basis and everything, and give them all that love and attention that they need to grow up to be good men and women and be loved as good little boys and good little girls, right? So if you can destroy the family unit, and if you can exhaust women, and you can fill their heads full of this whole independent woman, traveling the world, doing this, that, and the other, spending your 20s and your early 30s, your prime breeding years, right? When you have children, it's exhausting. Okay? The reason why you're able to go out and party until 4 o'clock in the morning and drink every weekend and stuff like that during your 20s is because you're supposed to be at home, being sleep deprived by your children at that point, and still be able to survive and get it done. You leave it too late, you simply will not get that energy back unless you have amazing health supplements and stuff like that. But you definitely wouldn't be able to do it alone. Okay, you'd need your family, you'd need a man there to do it, because kids don't develop properly unless they have both female and male influence, all right? They don't develop properly. There's two hemispheres of the brain for a reason, and they're supposed to be balanced. And if they're not balanced by having adequate time with your mother and adequate time with your father, that child is going to get really messed up, okay? It's well known, it's well documented. So if you're a New World Order and you want to control everybody and everything, what is the likelihood that you are going to allow people to raise their kids properly so that they grow up to be good men and women? All right? They're not going to allow that. Homeschooling is now incredibly difficult to get going, and these schooling systems, right? From the age of 5, you got to send your kid to some type of state indoctrination institution. That's not good. By the age of 7, everything that they've learned is on record, okay, and that becomes part of their personality. Like, I think it was like 98% of your personality gets grafted in those first 7 years. So if you take your children at 5, because you have to work as a woman, you have to work as a man just to be able to pay the rent together, so that you can send your child to a mind control institution to have them turned against you and have them turned into bad men and women growing up, okay? The New World Order is all for that. And it'd be best if, say, for example, the women had the ability to make more money from the government than they could possibly get by having a partner in the house. They do this in the United States as well. You have single mothers who get like $1,000 a week, and if they were staying at home just taking care of the kids and with their husband who's only making $800 a week, and they've got to feed a husband and pay the rent and all the kids and everything like that for $200 less a week than you could if you just kicked him out of the house and just went on the dole. All right, women aren't stupid. Okay, they'll do that because the ability is there. They're primarily concerned about the providing for their children, but maybe they haven't really thought it through, how dangerous that is for their children going forward. Yes, you'll be able to keep them alive, but when they get beyond your reach and everything like that, they might not know how to keep themselves alive. They might be sick all the time. They might have personality disorders. They might have a massive depression that they deal with and things of that nature. This is why women have been turned against men. This is why men are turning against women, because they feel like, oh, this is incredibly ungrateful. I've really busted my ass. Yeah, but you should just do that anyway. It's like, yeah, I should, but that doesn't mean I should do it without any appreciation or any respect. I give you appreciation, I give you respect for the work that you're doing at home, taking care of the kids. All I'm saying is it should be a partnership that goes both ways. What, you feel depressed because you're not out there earning $100,000 a month or traveling the world or something like that because you have to stay home and take care of the kids? Yes, that's part of maturing. That's part of being responsible. Life is not meant to be one endless adventure and party. Some things are difficult. Some things take a long time. Some things you have to make sacrifices for. And they're usually the things that make your life worth living. I mean, am I wrong here? Or is there an undercurrent of immaturity in the current population that has basically, for all intents and purposes, abdicated the responsibility of procreation, adequate procreation, right? Child rearing, all right, to raise children, okay? Raising them is not just allowing them to survive, and just making sure that they've got their breakfast and stuff like that. You also need to raise their consciousness level. And men have fallen victim to the system massively because not only have they disabled women from being real women and being good mothers to a large degree and being nurturing and all of those things that femininity is really supposed to embody in the divine sense, but they've also robbed males of their masculinity. Okay, are you working out really hardcore, and have you got the big muscles, and are you going out there and getting the jobs done that nobody else wants to do and getting paid handsomely for it, and creating things and building things and inventing things and so on and so forth? Actually, a lot of males are just sitting on their phones or sitting at their PlayStation or something like that after they've come home from their job. They don't actually have any drive anymore because there's almost no reason to have any drive, right? They've talked themselves out of it. People used to build cathedrals in order to get laid. It's just like they had a lot of time on their hands. No woman wanted to come near them until she realized that he built a frickin' cathedral. All right, so you've got this whole dynamic between what women actually want biologically and what men need biologically, right? And they're very, very different. Men and women have different needs and different wants and desires. So that's why they behave so differently. Now, when you combine those wants and desires in an ideal fashion, that's when men and women work together. Your woman will be your business partner, as well as your lover, as well as your counselor, so on and so forth. She will be your everything to you because you have to spend the bulk of your time as a man with your woman. And so she's going to have to provide the vast majority of products and services that are actually out there to you in order to satisfy you and make you think she's a good woman. Right? It's a very big demand from a man. And a woman has big demands as well. You've got to pay for things, you've got to provide things, you've got to protect, all right, and be a guardian, and be responsible, and be honourable. All of these things are very important. And none of them are easy. Okay? And that's the thing. Society's been grafted into this whole idea of quick sex and no responsibilities and one-night stands and so on and so forth. This is what happened in Rome before it fell. Okay? Now, guys, I've got quite a cold going on here. It's been lingering around for weeks. When you're sick and you never get any chance to rest or something like that, you just remain sick for goodness knows how long. Yeah, bro, it's coming on the third week now of having a cold and having to blow my nose and stuff like that. I hope this is not quite too disgusting, but oh my God. Sorry about that. So there you have the fact here that I'm sick. I'm tired. I don't want to be doing this right now, but I'm doing it because it's my responsibility. My responsibility to the network, which might I remind you is a fantastic network, groundzero.radio. And what are we supposed to be promoting? The downloads. Yes. Okay, so last month we had a huge influx of new people downloading the MP3s, and it really excited the network. So what we want to encourage people to do is go to groundzero.radio and start doing your downloads. Some of them you can download them for free. You don't even have to be a member. We just want to get those downloads up. So if you listen to shows on this network, please go to groundzero.radio and figure out how to download those shows. We absolutely love you for it. Hey, my God. Now, speaking of which, roughness, toughness. Luna Longshadow is alluding it to on here. And I've been talking to some people lately who are complaining about everything. All right, complaining about what their house situation is like, complaining about what their career is like, complaining about their emotional state of health. I'm just like, I'm not sure if I'm lacking empathy here, but I'm just overhearing about that. Okay, I'm just over it. Yeah, I mean, I know that I complain sometimes about things, but this is just to give you context of what somebody can go through and still come out the other side, right? It's like Rocky said, it's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you can get hit and get back up again. And that's what I'm doing. You know, I've taken a few hits and I'm freaking getting back up again, right? I'm not going to stop. Can't. Just can't. Right? There's too many ruthless people trying to make everybody just as ruthless and vain and greedy and malicious and narcissistic as them. And I'm not one of them. And I don't want to be one of them. It's kind of how I define my reality, is opposing that crap and making something better. Something that is a lot more fun. Something that's a little bit more enlightening. Something that's a little bit more energetic. You know? Something of a higher vibration. That's what I'm after. And all these other people out there, they can do whatever they want. This is what I'm doing. All right? You're either on the vibe or you ain't. Reminds me of my favourite piece of drunken wisdom that I got from a student at Shadows, the Auckland University student bar. He goes, mate, life is about one thing. The search for good vibes. I was like, it's actually quite profound. In a way, because vibes means vibrations, and all things that exist in the energetic spectrum have a vibratory frequency, and some vibes are very, very bad, and they do bad things to you, bad things to your consciousness, and so on and so forth. And maybe there's a possibility that we can raise that vibration, and in so doing, we help to counterbalance the other thing, right? So, as I say, as things start to happen, other things will start to happen to oppose them. So at the moment, you've got a New World Order trying to enslave everybody, and also, simultaneously, a bunch of very, very plucky, independent, confident people who are using their intellect and their gumption to oppose the worst tyranny that has ever existed on the planet that we know of. Okay? Man, sounds like a David versus Goliath type thing, right? And people are always lackadaisical about it. Like, oh, good will win out, Vinny, good will win out. It's like, no, that's not true. Good doesn't just win all the time. Evil has won many, many times throughout history. It's enslaved people, it's murdered people, it's committed vast genocides and things like that, while people were sitting around, oh, good will win in the end. No! Good doesn't win unless good people do something, alright? It's like that old quote that The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And it says men there specifically, whereas women do contribute to the truth movement in other ways, but they can't really ever contribute. This may sound really chauvinistic, but women will never, ever be able to contribute to the truth movement as much as men can. Why? Again, it comes back to frickin' biology. You know what happens when a woman gets in a really stressful situation where she's trying to accomplish something that's really important and what have you? She gets a big release of estrogen, which makes it more stressful for her. You know what happens to men? They get a release of testosterone, which makes it less stressful for him. So biologically, we are more capable of dealing with stress and danger and terrible things. That's why we want to protect you. That's why we want to provide for you. That's why we go out and onto battlefields and stuff like that predominantly and leave the women at home to take care of the kids, which is still a very hard job, but at least you're not getting shot at. At least you're not dealing with frostbite. You know? Like, dude, we can do things that you can't do, and you can do things that we can't do. And let's just have a look at how best we contribute. Do you think if the New World Order had charged into your country with, like, I don't know, 1 million armed men, do you think that the women would be able to stand against them? No, they'd just get kicked down and then shot. Right? Guys have that killer instinct. We do. That's why they try to placate men with video games and things of that nature. So that want, that need, that desire, that inbuilt kind of I want to go out and kill the enemy type thing can be subdued. All right? That's why, you know, there's barely any real men anymore. There's barely any real women anymore. And so what's happening to men in this system, especially with family court and stuff like that, is that they don't get to see their kids. And they have to pay through the nose to not even get to see their kids. They get shafted by the family court system. And because of the stress, they commit the majority of suicides. Okay? When men and women are fighting, men can do something very vicious and nasty. We can hit you or rape you or anything like that because you've got the physical brutality. So if a man is incapable of restraining himself and doing the right thing and stuff like that, a woman could die. But a woman, she can't do that to you. But she can do other things. She can turn your entire social circle against you. She can make you so miserable that you kill yourself. You understand? And that's what I think a lot of guys are suffering through. Almost every guy I know that's around about my age, maybe within a 10 or 15 year spread, has had a really bad relationship with a woman who has made him close to suicidal at some point, who he needs to cope with the fact of what has happened to him because he can't change it and he can't do anything by smoking, drinking, doing drugs, and having meaningless sex with as many women as he can get his hands on until he's no longer hot enough to accomplish it. All right, this is what has happened to men. They've been freaking destroyed by women. Because the women got destroyed first. They bought into the propaganda. They didn't want to be a real woman anymore. They wanted to have all those masculine traits without any of the responsibilities that really come with it. All right? That's the reason why we have women and children first on the boat. Okay? Because the guys are supposed to take the hit. We're supposed to do the protecting and all of that kind of stuff. And if we get viciously treated, it's like reality coming undone for a man. And a lot of guys can't handle that. And they kill themselves. Hell of a lot. What was it, like 87% of suicides are committed by men? I mean, my goodness. What a vicious, vicious thing that has happened to women. And what a vicious thing it's now being peddled by them to destroy their men. You know? And they wonder, where are all the good men? You destroyed them. That's where they are. All right? They can't even get themselves together anymore. They need somebody to love them and care about them and do all those wonderful things so that they didn't have to worry about it, so that they could just do their thing and be a man, kind of thing. And you took it from them. All right? So, you've made your own bed. You've swallowed the propaganda, hook, line, and sinker, and now there are consequences to it. Every action has a consequence, an equal and opposite consequence. And this comes down to national security at the end of the day. Like, really? You think about, Vinny, like, what are you talking about? The men and women fighting with each other. How does that compromise national security? Because if you don't have a country that has real men and real women, you will not be able to survive getting invaded by a country that does. Okay? It's inevitable. They've destroyed the sperm count. They've destroyed testosterone. They've brainwashed everybody with leftists' equality kind of speak. They've gotten everybody addicted to screens. They've gotten so many people unfit and unhealthy so that they can't think, they don't have energy, they can't fight. Right? How sad is that? What a ruthless sacrifice to have to actually make in order to have your new world order. So that you destroy the very fabric of anything that makes men men and makes women women. So that we can constantly and successfully breed ourselves out of control. Because at this point, I just watched Idiocracy again last night. And filmmaker Mike Judge was talking about it was meant to be a movie, but it turned out to be a documentary. And he's right. Stupid people are breeding out of control. Okay? Stupid people are breeding out of control. And intelligent people not breeding really at all. So the entire population in the metric is getting dumber and dumber and dumber as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And sooner or later, there won't be anybody who's smart enough when the power goes out to figure out how to get it to turn back on. And everybody's just going to die. All right? This happens in herd animals all the time. They go to an area, they eat all the grass that's there, and then there's not enough for them, and then a whole bunch of them die off. That's what's happening to us as a whole society, bro. Okay? It's kind of like if you had once the ability to own a home and have 5 kids and have a business and so on and so forth, you don't have that anymore. All right? Generally speaking. The propensity for that thing to happen, maybe in the 1950s and 60s, that's not there anymore. Because they've devalued the currency so much that no matter how much you work, your money's going to be worth less at the end of the day. Right, literally, at the end of each day, your money becomes worth less. Because they keep creating new money every day. And it just waters down everything. There's no juice. It's all just been watered down, bro. So no wonder men are committing suicide in record numbers. No wonder there's a massive amount of single mothers out there. No wonder there's children with anxiety disorders and depression and personality disorders and stuff like that, because the very fabric that would have actually made those children good and self-regulating and all of that kind of stuff was a good stable home with a good man who provides and a good woman who nurtures. All right, and they've destroyed it. You're welcome. All right, so with that being said, thank you so much everybody for listening. Tanya Bauer and WCB99, lovely to have you here, bro, and DK Spiracy, as of course almost always in the chat room. There's been very rarely a show where DK Spiracy, probably the best mod in the New Zealand Truth Movement, if I'm actually going to label him something here. He does like live streaming 24/7, bro. The guy does something that nobody else has ever done and hasn't been able to do or replicate yet. So why does he do that? Well, because he can. He can, bro. And just like Amos777 in the chat room, why does he do his show? Because he can. Yeah. And Luna Longshadow, lovely to see you here. And Joe Elkins Music. You make music, Elkins? Good on you, mate. I want to get back into making some music. Man, I need to sing. And Dazza says, g'day across the ditch. I love how everything ends with an O in Australia as well. You know, like Davo, Robbo, Jono. You know, it's a very Australianism thing. It was great. Michael Fatchon, thank you very much for tuning in, brother. Mr. Bushman, again, thank you very much for that $10 super chat, bro. I love that. And I'd like to remind people, if I haven't mentioned your name, Bogdan, Asaris, and Desk Mouse, we're getting lots of new listeners here, guys. I'm very, very glad to see you all. Very glad to see you all. We even got Bygum. I don't know what Bygum is, but I want some. Now, that is the thing. And Jason from Hastings, good on you, mate. And Phil Rice as well, who's just, you know, a very handsome man, has a very great radio show. Man, Vinny's still sick. Still very, very, very sick. Oh my goodness. I need to get well. Okay. So, lastly, I just want to do a little promo for River of Lies, the New Zealand Scamdemic here. It's on YouTube. That's right. You can go to the River of Lies channel and you can catch episode 1 of River of Lies there, bro. It's a 2-hour, 7-minute documentary. And what it does is show you everything that they said to push the narrative, and then everything they said afterwards that contradicts it completely. It's just, it's great. They got no defense again, and I wonder YouTube hasn't been able to pull it yet. It's good on you. And Green Man has just commented in the chat room as well. Yeah, thank you everybody for participating in the chat room, guys. I really appreciate that. What I would also very much appreciate is if you go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. That's Vinny with a Y because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news and become a Patreon. We need to get our Patreon base up, ladies and gentlemen. So there's an orange button there to become a patron of the Vinny Eastwood Show Patreon channel. So hopefully, guys, you can support us every month with a couple of bucks just for a cup of coffee or something of that nature, just to keep the show on the air and keep it on going, just with costs. You know, these lights, they in the studio and everything, it does cost, but it's a very, very minimal cost, and that's what we do here on the Vinny Eastwood Show. Keep costs to an absolute minimum. Okay, a lot of people out there, they want to do huge advertising campaigns, they want to get themselves into debt, they want to burn through the money using huge professional studios and paying people big salaries and things like that. You're going to collapse, okay? Tighten your belts. Do it at as low a budget as you possibly can for a good product, and you will have longevity, provided you don't let the stress of doing the work gets to you. And the stress will get to you if you don't have adequate time to rest and recover and experience some of the good things in life that make it worth protecting. It's like Samwise said to Frodo, it's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those are the stories that stayed with you. Those are the stories that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. And I know now that the folk in those stories had lots of chances of giving up. But they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something. That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you, guys. We'll see you again sometime.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem. It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood show. The Vinny Eastwood show. Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need.
The Vinny Eastwood show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio.